Hey, this is DJ Lady Jock from Traveling My Way on 88.1 KDHX. And I am DJ Lady Jock. That is G Wiz. And we have with us today the incomparable Miss Freda Payne.
Hey.
Damn. So we're gonna start it off like this. So tell us where you're born and raised.
Okay, I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan,
Ooh.
and that's where I went to school, and that's where mostly, my folks are from there, other than my parent. Let's say my mother was born in Birmingham, Alabama, but then
Mhm,
she was raised her entire life in Detroit. My
mhm,
father was born in Asheville, North Carolina,
mhm,
and he came to Detroit when he was about 19 or 20 years old to work in the car factories at Ford Motor Company,
mhm.
and that's where he resided until his death.
Are you still in Detroit?
No, oh, I left
Okay.
Detroit a long time ago. I left
Okay.
Detroit. I left Detroit when I was about 18. I went to New York, but then I still went back and forth,
Mhm.
and I lived
Okay.
in New York for like about 7 years, and then I moved out here to California. I live in
Ooh.
Southern California now, I've been
Ooh.
here for like about 45 years.
Wow. It never
Mhm.
rains in Southern California. See?
Yes, it does. But it does right now. We
Oh, you
need
need.
more rain. Yeah, we're going
So,
through a drought. We need more rain.
oh man, I know. I tell you about it. Well, hopefully we can, because we getting a lot of rain up here. Hopefully it can shift your way.
Yeah, we need some of that rain.
So tell me about your sibling because your sister sings as well.
Yeah, Sherry
Yeah.
Payne. Sherry joined well, first of all, she was in a group called the Glass House, and
Mhm,
that was when we were both recording in Detroit on Invictus, and I was on Invictus, and I think she was on Hot Wax. But anyway, she was in a group, Glass House, and actually wrote a song that became a hit record, a R&B hit record called "Crumbs Off the Table." She
mm,
wrote it and she performed on it, and also the one that got out there and her record got a lot of recognition was Laura Lee, so she recorded Crumbs Off the Table as well. And her version is the one that I think that really got out there and
mhm,
became a hit for her.
mhm,
Then Sherry joined the Supremes with Mary Wilson. And it was in 1973, Mary Wilson and Cindy Birdsong. And she stayed a member of the Supremes until they disbanded. Like, I think that was around 73, 70, 77 or 78. And then they also brought on, after Cindy Birdsong, they brought on Susie Green. So by the
mhm,
time Mary decided to disband the Supremes,
mhm,
it was Sherry Payne and Susie Green, and of course Mary Wilson, who was the founder of the group in the first place. So
mhm.
that's what happened. And then Sherry continued the group, but under they changed it a little bit. They said former ladies of the Supremes, and there were different reincarnations of the former ladies. There was always Sherry, and then there was Linda Lawrence. And then when Linda left, they at first they had Jean Terrell with them for a minute. And then Jean left, didn't want to travel anymore. And then they got Linda Lawrence. And then of course, then after Linda left, there was Susie Green, and then Joyce Vincent Wilson, who was also a singer who was part of the Tony Orlando group. They called it Dawn. Remember Tony Orlando had a radio show back I think in the 80s.
I was just a
And
kid. Yes, ma'am.
yeah, you were a kid. And they were called Dawn. It was two ladies. It was
Hmm.
Telma Hopkins, who
The
became an
actress.
actress
Yep.
and also was on many hit shows, after that. She's out here.
Hmm.
She's always working. And so it was Telma Hopkins and Joyce Vincent Wilson and Pam, her sister Pam. They were in that group called Dawn along with Tony Orlando. So now, right now to this day, they work as former ladies of the Supremes, starring Sherry Payne, Susie Green, and Telma. I mean, not Thelma, I'm saying, and Joyce Vincent Wilson. That's it.
So it was just you two, just you and Sherry.
It's just me and Sherry, the two of us,
Oh,
growing
you
up,
you're
growing
the
up.
big sister.
I'm the big sister.
Oh, she
Yeah.
followed big sister's footsteps. Oh, nothing like the
But
showing big
Sherry
sister
is
love.
multi-talented, not as
Mm-hmm.
just a singer. Sherry's
Mm-hmm.
a songwriter. She writes plays and screenplays. She does it. That's her. I think it's like a hobby to her, but she does it. She's written many.
Mm-hmm.
Written many screenplays and stuff like that. And she just loves to write and song. She's a songwriter and all that.
That's awesome. So as your teenager, you attended a musical art school. So this is how you really got into the singing.
Well, I back in Detroit, my mother started me out with piano lessons when I was like
Mm,
about 6 or 7 years old.
mm-hmm,
And I studied, I played, we had Sherry and Sherry too.
mm-hmm,
And we had piano lessons for about 6 or 7 years. And okay, there's only a 2 year difference between us, but I'm the oldest. And then after that, when I turned about 13, I stopped taking piano lessons because I was just so more into singing.
mm-hmm.
And then I got auditioned for a radio show in Detroit called Don Large's Make Way for Youth. And it was like a choral group. And then Don Large would single me out and give me solos every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And it was me and a girl named Ursula Walker in Detroit, and Ursula was already singing on television all the time. And so and we were the it was me between me, Ursula, and a girl named Carmen Mathis. We were the only black girls, African American girls in the whole choir. It was all white.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also, and so Don Large, he would ask me to do solos and Ursula to do solos, and then he wanted us to form a group, and it was the three of us, me, Ursula, and Carmen Mathis, and we were called the Three Debs, like in debutantes, Three Debs,
Okay.
and we only
Okay.
performed on the radio, and sometimes if we did personal performances um, at certain venues, we'd sing, we'd do something together. But that was the only time I was ever in a singing group ever. And it wasn't professional, it was amateur. So,
Okay. Good info there. Okay. So you
hmm
you you moved to New York. You say that's where you stayed, and you worked with some big artists when you Quincy Jones, the late Pearl Bailey,
Pearl Bailey was my
and
first job on the road. I was
wow.
17. I was 17, and boy, was I green. But, I was green and I was 17. And matter of fact, I just turned 17 when I got booked for that. And we went to Cincinnati. We performed in Cincinnati, Ohio, and then we went to the Apollo in New York. And
Mm,
that was my first time stepping on the Apollo stage. It was in New York with Pearl Bailey. And then after
wow.
that, I got to work with. I auditioned for Duke Ellington to sing with his band, and and he wanted me to sign a 10-year contract. Now, being 17, I was considered underage, an adolescent,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that brought more problems into the situation. It wasn't like, okay, you're an adult, you sign a contract and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I had to have a guardian. Somebody I'd have to have probably a chaperone on the road, which would have
Mm-hmm.
been my mother. But it didn't happen because there were too many things, kind of like in the way. And Mr. Ellington was reluctant to agree on everything, that we wanted in the contract. So that never happened. But he did want me to sign as his band singer for 10 years when I was 17 years old. But I went on to New York when I was 18. And then by the time I turned, let's see, I was 18 when I first met Quincy Jones. And then I didn't work with him until I think I was 20. and that's when
Okay.
we worked at the Apollo Theater. I was the girl singer with the Quincy Jones Orchestra,
Hmm.
and that show consisted of Billy Eckstein, who was a
Ooh.
huge superstar back then, and he was the headliner,
Mm-hmm.
and the Quincy Jones Big Band, Red Fox,
Mm.
and he was the comedian, and
That's
then they
St.
had a
Louis on. That's St. Louis
all
on. Red
right, yes,
Fox.
all right, yeah, yeah, he was I liked Red. He was funny, he
I
was
did
funny, and
too.
yeah, yeah, he was one of those guys. It's too bad that he left us, but
Yeah.
what can you do?
Yeah.
People can't live forever. But so,
Yeah.
and then there was Honey Coles and Charlie Atkins on that show. And
Charlie Atkins.
Charlie Atkins, and see, Charlie was a professional tap dancer, and
Yes.
he worked with Honey Coles,
Honey Coles
and
was
they were
good.
there. This is black hit. This is history. This is black music history.
Yes.
And then Charlie Atkins became, a few years later, he became the choreographer for the Temptations, the Four Tops at Motown.
Mm-hmm.
And then Honey Coles, he stayed probably in New York, and he went on to be on Broadway and other shows. um, Honey Coles, and he's a legendary figure in the entertainment industry as well as Charlie Atkins.
The man. That's the man. Wait a minute. So you did some work with Bill Cosby? That's I'm Fat Albert Kid and all
Yeah,
the
well, I
I'm
work with Bill Cosby. Yeah, I work with Bill
because I'm
Cosby.
like, he don't sing.
No, no, Bill Cosby we worked at Mill Run outside of Chicago,
Uh-huh.
and then I worked with him again in Cleveland, Ohio,
Okay.
at another venue, a theater on the round. I think it was called Front Row or something like that. If I may have the wrong
Mm-hmm.
name for it. It was called the Front Row or something like that. But anyway, it was in Cleveland. This was in
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland. So I worked with Bill Cosby twice. More than that. Wait a minute, I'm forgetting.
Uh-oh.
I
Uh-oh.
worked with him in New York. I worked with him in the first time I worked with him was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And this was at a theater outside in New York. It wasn't Westbury. It was something. It was
Mm-hmm.
another, like a theater.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I worked with him. And that would
Awesome.
have been back, oh wow, that would have been back in like sort of like the late 70s.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
when he was making the movies then. The let's
Oh
what's what
yeah.
Wiz,
Oh
let's
yeah.
do
He
it
was.
again. And oh God, I can go on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So you was already kind of like surrounded by the jazz artists. So you was really into jazz then before you actually went to the R&B?
I did.
Okay.
I was a jazz singer.
Oh,
And so I was working with more like big jazz bands, and also if I worked in clubs, I worked
mm-hmm,
with like like trios,
mm-hmm,
and I did. And my repertoire was mostly like cabaret,
mm-hmm,
American Songbook,
mm-hmm,
songs that were like maybe popular of the day,
mm-hmm,
that were kind of like pop songs or R&B song, maybe a little bit of blues as well. And
mm-hmm,
then when I decided that the opportunity was presented to me to record with Invictus and go with Holland Dozier and Holland, I
mm,
jumped at it, because I said, well, I want to get a hit record. I said, my career is not going to advance that much if I keep doing what I'm doing,
yeah.
singing jazz. So I said, I see what Dinah Ross has done and Dionne Warwick and all of them. I said, I want to get some hits too. So I signed with Invictus. It was 1969. And then we started recording.
Mm-hmm,
And the first song that they released was called "The Unhooked Generation," and that didn't quite, you know, chart that well. So
mm-hmm,
then a few months later, they released "Band of Gold," and "Band of Gold" was the magic charm. So that was it. And then a year later, we did a song called "Bring the Boys Home," and that got me my
I remember
second
that one.
gold record. I made my mark singing R&B pop
Mm-hmm,
with Invictus. That's how
mm-hmm.
I got my how I got over. As they say, how did you get over? I got over singing R&B pop, which,
Mm-hmm.
with Holland Ocean Holland
Mm-hmm.
and all that. And it was hard to be accepted back into
Mm-hmm.
the jazz world, because once you get out of it and you go commercial, when I
Mm-hmm.
say commercial, uh it's almost like, well, you turned your back on us, so you think you're going to just step back in,
Right.
and you lose. I think you kind of lose the respect of the hardcore jazz aficionados.
Mm-hmm.
But being that I'm continuing to push and push and push, and I've been doing this a long time, because even when I had a band to go out and I performed in clubs, it depended upon the venue. Sometimes that's all they wanted. It was the kind of venue that all they wanted was the R&B and pop stuff. They didn't want
Mm-hmm.
to hear any jazz. So I understood that. But every now
Mm-hmm.
and then I would push in, I would put in one of my jazz tunes. Or when I say jazz, when I say jazz, I mean a standard, like a standard tune. And they
Mm-hmm.
loved it. So it got to the point where people start saying, you sing the the jazz and the American Songbook, like you do a great job on that. Like, we really enjoyed you. And I felt like you got to educate your audience. Now they are used to me singing jazz, and
Mm-hmm.
they come to the shows because they want to hear it. But at the same time, at towards the end of the evening, when I start putting in it band the goal, whatever, bring the boys home, or what, like
Uh-huh.
how sweet it is to be loved by you, which is
Yeah.
a Lamont Dozier wrote that.
Right.
They love it. They come alive. They start smiling. They start taking out their phones and videotaping. Yeah. Well, I became a jazz fan, believe it or not, when I was like 12.
Okay.
My ears, for some reason, were attuned to jazz. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you why. When I was 4 and 5 years old, I had an uncle. He died when I was 9, when I was
Mm-hmm.
9 years old. And his name was Uncle Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
And Uncle Johnny had these jazz, he had a combination of jazz and classical. He had like Duke Ellington big band. He had Lionel Hampton. I think he even had a couple of blues records, like B.B. King and people like
Mm-hmm.
that. And he
Mm-hmm.
would play that. And also he had classical records, which is surprising. And
Mm-hmm.
he had Rachmaninoff, Serge Rachmaninoff. He had Tchaikovsky, and he would play it. And I would
Wow.
put my ear up to the speaker. See, this was in the 40s.
I,
This is
and I
way back,
and
you
see, I
know.
remember these names in music class. I was like, whoa.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Bach, and all these people. And the
Wow.
thing is that I, being at a young age, that's when music is it's more impressionable to you. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you're a sponge, and you suck that up into your brain,
Mm-hmm.
into your soul. So
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
listening to jazz and classical music. I'm 4 and 5 years old, maybe three,
Wow.
you know. And so that stuck with me. And let me tell you, by the time I got to be 12,
Mm-hmm.
I start listening to Miles Davis. And you know what blew my mind? His album, Sketches of Spain. That blew
Oh.
my mind.
Mm,
That
mm,
was it. That was it. I said,
mm.
I love Miles Davis. I loved his playing. Right after that, I start listening to more Miles Davis and Dizzy Gillespie and people like that, Art Blakey, and then Horace Silver. I listened to Horace Silver because
Yes.
Horace Silver, actually, I got to meet him. I got to know him. We became friends.
Wow.
And
Okay.
he was a somebody I got to know. Never worked with
Mm-hmm.
him, but we just
Mm-hmm.
knew each other. And
Wow.
yeah, so I got to work with Count Basie's band once. This was just a one time thing.
Mm-hmm.
Count Basie, and oh boy, well, goes on. And oh, Lionel Hampton. I worked with Lionel Hampton.
Have you worked with Ramsey Lewis?
I never worked with Ramsey Lewis, but I wish I
Okay.
had have worked with him. I think I had
Okay.
something happened. It didn't go. Something went down. It didn't work out right.
Okay.
But I love Ramsey Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of our legends. He's one of our
Mm-hmm.
jazz legends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what
Woo!
about
Yeah,
what the stuff
but
I'm
yeah,
doing now?
I'm getting excited.
Yeah,
what
hey, listen, I did an
what
album back in 2014. It was released. It was on the Mac Avenue label.
come
It was
back to
Uh-huh.
me,
called Come
love.
Back to Me Love. And that was all jazz. It was a big
You
band. And then I just did last year, it came out. And because of the pandemic, it didn't come out until, yeah, last year, 2021. But we actually
Mm-hmm.
recorded this in 2019 at Capitol Records here in Hollywood. And I
Mm-hmm.
did duets with Johnny Mathis, Kenny Lattimore, Dee Dee
Mm-hmm.
Bridgewater,
Mm-hmm.
and Kurt Elling. Oh, I have a copy I can show you, but I already autographed it. But see,
Oh, we didn't get an autograph one.
you didn't get one. Maybe I can send you one. That's the inside.
Yes.
And this is the back. And then I
so
got
let
last year I got a book out. I
I
wrote my
you
heard.
you
memoirs,
band of gold.
Band of Gold.
See, you didn't let me ask you these questions.
That's
These were
that's
my
what
questions. This was
Okay, shoot.
these were you can answer
go,
them
brother.
all. You
Go big hey,
I
go
was
big
gonna
brother.
ask you. I was gonna ask you about the 2014 CD, which
Yeah,
you brought up. Come back to me, love. I
yeah,
was gonna bring up the Let There Be Love with Kenny Lattimore from the
yeah.
current album. That was
Uh-huh.
a remake of Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was going to ask you about the Band of Gold memoir,
Okay.
that's out now. I was going to ask you about the nomination for NAACP Image Award for Outstanding
Yes.
Vocal Jazz Album, but
Yeah.
you just want to jump the gun, like we wasn't going to ask you that. That's why me and her, we're a team. We're a
Yes.
team. We set you up, and then bam, we hit you unexpectedly with questions like, because as it goes on, you're like, is they gonna ask me about? No, we just warming you up. We getting
Yeah,
friendly with you,
we
opening
get
you
free.
up, and then we come with
Okay.
your because we will not interview legends like yourself without knowing what they're currently doing. Because we
Okay.
love when the legends, the people we were raised up on, come with
Mhm.
something new, and we pride ourselves on playing it because
Right.
we know that you have a hard time with urban commercial radio. And
Oh
that's where
yeah.
we come in,
Yeah.
so we reach out on purpose to people like you.
Well, you know what? And I know and I appreciate that. And I love it because, like, for instance, I see you wearing a sweatshirt with Aretha Franklin on it. A picture of Aretha Franklin on your sweatshirt, and one of her many hits. Don't play that song for me. Don't play that song. It
Cause
brings
it
back
always back
memories.
memories.
Yeah, right.
Don't say nothing. T, let her sing it.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
No, I'm just playing. No,
Don't
that's
play
that's
that
what we do.
song for me. Yeah, right. So I see. I know you're into the. I know you're into the legends. I
Oh
know that.
yeah, oh
And
yeah.
I see you wearing Aretha
Uh,
sweatshirt.
uh,
That's nice.
Aretha, Aretha here, and on my hat, Stymie Beard,
Gee whiz, yeah. Look at
Stymie.
his eyes.
See,
Gee whiz, they hypnotize. You guys going crazy.
oh my gosh.
Oh,
Oh,
I love it.
me too. Thanks for that, Frida,
Oh,
Miss
Oh,
Payne.
okay.
I can
oh,
call you
Miss.
Frida. So your niece, Shoshana,
Shoshana. Yeah,
okay, she's your
that's
vocal
Sherry's
coach,
daughter. She's
vocal
a
coach, right?
vocal coach,
Yeah.
and she's excellent. She's really good. I even take, vocal classes with her. And
Mm-hmm.
Sherry too.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hmm
I found that out.
Shoshana, the name of the studio is called La Voix. Lavoie Studio
Wow.
located in Studio City here in
Wow.
LA. Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
So since we brought in the voice, let's okay. Now I know that you was doing yoga in the 70s.
Yeah.
Okay. That was your
Yeah.
thing.
That
But
definitely.
your knee replacement and your shoulder.
Oh, you know a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He,
You've been a fly on the
we
wall.
reads. We
Oh,
reads.
well, let me talk about that. Okay. I started practicing yoga, hatha yoga, in 1973 with Bikram Chowdhury, who started the hot yoga here in LA, Beverly Hills. And of course, I studied yoga up until about 3 or 4 years ago when after I started having problems with my knees and the arthritis and being bone on bone. So in 2020, I had a knee replacement surgery in 2020, June. And then exactly a year after that, I had my right shoulder, I had a shoulder replacement, my right shoulder. So yeah, that's what happened.
Well, I'm gonna leave the pain alone. And I'm gonna go back to your
You don't have any more
no, I'm gonna go
questions?
back. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to your when you was painless. Okay.
Okay,
All
okay.
right. And I'm gonna ask you this. Okay, you loved dancing when you was younger,
Yes,
and you wanted to be a doctor, but then you wanted to be a nurse, but you didn't like the sight of blood.
right.
so, so before Barry started Motown, you sung 3 songs with him.
Yeah, yeah, I did. He wrote songs for me before he started Motown. Yeah, that's right.
Hmm. And
I
you,
came before Mary Wells
yep.
and all
Mm.
those folks.
And you, and Barry wanted, he had an interest in you as a performer and wanted to manage you, but he wanted how much of your earnings?
I think it was something like 20% or 25%. And my mother didn't go along with that. She said, well, Barry, what the agent gets 10? He said, yeah. She said, well, what about Frida's gowns? She has to have gowns and special wardrobe, hotel, like she stays in a hotel. Who pays for that? He
Right.
said, well, it would come out of her salary. And she said, but she has to fly places, to go to get work or whatever. He said, well, it would come out of her salary. My mother said, well, what does that leave Frida? Duh,
Homeless.
you know, and he would say, well, this is what you have to do to get to the point where you become, you click and you start, selling records and all that. And my mother just felt that that was unfair, and he did not want to negotiate. He didn't want to change anything back then. In other words, it was his way or the highway. So you had to just jump in hook, line, and sinker and just hope and pray that something would come out of it. So my mother didn't agree with, she didn't go along with that. So that's what happened.
When you went to school with the Hollands, didn't you?
I went to school with Lamont Dozier.
Okay, those are
We
okay.
were in middle
Boy, that.
school together 3 years straight. Also, when I got in high school, I had a class with Brian Holland.
Mhm.
Now, Eddie Holland was 3 years older than me. So Eddie wasn't in the same school at the same time that I was in school with Brian.
Hmm.
But I had met Eddie because Barry brought Eddie to our house back when I was about 14 years old. When I was still working and doing some stuff with Barry.
Okay.
So I knew I had met Eddie.
Um, Band of Gold, you didn't like the song at first. You didn't
I
want
no,
feeling it.
I
Put it
didn't
like
like
that. You
some of the
weren't feeling it.
lyrics.
Right. You weren't feeling it.
Yeah,
But
I felt it was a little adolescent for me to sing because I was like 28 at the time. I said, I'm a grown woman. I said, this is something for like a 16-year-old to sing, real young, naive girl.
mhm.
That's how I felt. But the track was jamming. I liked the track.
Yeah,
Yes.
because he used the Funk Brothers, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, that back then it was all
Yeah,
those guys
yeah.
that they were Motown guys. Earl Van Dyke, all these different people.
Jameson.
James
Bass player.
Oh my
Jameson.
gosh, the best
Yeah.
bass player in the
Bass.
world.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
James Jameson had done a couple of like local gigs and nightclubs with me before that. I mean, during that
Really?
time as well. So I worked with a
Wow.
lot of people,
That's dope.
Robert White, Uriel
Mm-hmm.
Jones.
Yeah.
Um, of course, Earl Van Dyke became, when I got Band to Go, Earl Van Dyke became my musical director, traveling with me like all over Europe and the United States. We did gigs for 12 years until he decided he didn't want to go on the road anymore.
Oh wow. Because Band of Gold, um, it says, we know it's Holland Dozier Holland, but writers, Dunbar from Parliament Funkadelic later,
Okay,
you know,
Ron
and the
Dunbar, and then there was a name down
E.
on there,
Wayne,
Edith
E.
Wayne.
Wayne. Yeah.
Well, they didn't write the song at all.
Right.
They had
Cor-
nothing to do with the
Yep.
song. The only thing that Ron Dunbar had to do with was that he
He,
rehearsed, he taught the song to me. That was it. But the actual writers were Holland, Dozier, and Holland.
but they were
But they
still
were in a
signed to
lawsuit.
Motown. Mhm.
Yeah, they had sued Motown, and then Motown turned around and countersued them. There was a lot of mystery
Mm.
going on, a lot of stuff going on back then. And
Mm.
they weren't
Mm.
allowed to, the judgment was that they weren't allowed, until the lawsuit was settled, they weren't allowed to use their names to write on compositions and records. And so they put Ron Dunbar and Edith Wayne was even made up, because Edith Wayne was a fictitious name, but it was attached to um, someone else, another lady.
Hmm. But Bring the Boys Home. Why was it such controversy about the song when I didn't see, as a kid and still now I don't see the controversy. It was a war
Yeah.
going on.
It-
You
Well,
just
you
was
know
like,
what?
bring them
Yeah.
home.
Yep.
Okay, I'll tell you what it was. Richard Nixon was the president. The
Mm.
Republicans were in office,
Yep.
and it was a Republican thing. It's almost like today, you have the QAnon, which was it's like, excuse my English, a bullshit organization, based on fallacies and making up stuff.
I was going to ask you about the talk show that you hosted,
Oh, Today's Black
Today's Black
Woman.
Woman.
That started in 1982. Was it 81, 80, 81 and 82? And I was, it was in New York. It started in New York. And I did it for 2 years. And it was like, I was the host of the show. And I had different guests, like Vernon Jordan, like Reverend Jesse Jackson, and we covered many subjects. We just many kind of like pertaining to the Black community, and Blacks on Broadway, the producers, the writers. I interviewed Shirley Chisholm, who was the first Black woman to ever run for president of the United States. And people like that. It was very educational. That's why this was before Oprah.
Way before.
And now I said, and that was only once a week. It only came on the week on let's say here it came on Sundays, and it was ABC affiliated, 67 stations around the US. And I said, it's a lot of work. That's why, remember Oprah said she has no time, to get married, to worry about getting married to Stedman, because she's married to the show.
Yep.
And she was right. It is almost a 24/7 job. Wait, let me turn this. It'll go to a voicemail. Okay.
You see what she just did? I tried to
What?
call her and she said, I'll just let it go to voicemail. I ain't calling you no more.
Is that you?
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, you're just joking. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, the new CD, Let There Be Love, is doing well. And, you know, I sell it when I perform. When I go out and perform, I usually sell it, you know, and then as now that the book is out, I sell that too. And surprisingly, the book is selling just as well or better than the CD.
So I
was surprised to find out that people were really interested in, you know, buying my book. That surprised me. You know, I didn't think. And then what surprised me even more is the reviews and the feedback. And these are from people I know who have known me. And they're saying, girl, I can't put that book down. That was like, they really, and these are people that I don't think they would like say that. If anything, if they thought it was just like, you know, they would say, oh girl, that was, I'm glad you finally wrote your book and that's it, you know.
But
nobody would be saying, oh, I loved it. This was, and Quincy Jones, when he read my book, and he had his secretary call me up and say, you know, that he loved it. And he said, especially because it brought back memories back when we were, when we worked together and all that stuff. And he sent me a huge bouquet, an arrangement of flowers. I thought that was so nice.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know, the last time I was in St. Louis, I got a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Urban League.
Really?
There in St. Louis. And it was this was, oh my God, I think it must have been about 2016 or 2017.
What?
I have it. I can go and look at, wait a minute.
Wow.
I can go, wait a minute.
Yeah, where was,
wait a minute.
Yeah, where was I at?
No, well, the Urban League kind of keep their stuff quiet, you know, within their circle, you know.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. It was a Lifetime Achievement Award that I got from the Urban League in St. Louis, and it was wonderful. Wait a minute. I just want you to see. It might be a little dark here, but
she go get you.
Oh,
that's it. See,
the
can
eagle?
you see it?
The eagle?
Nice.
That's it.
Is that my
Freda
name on
Payne, Women in Leadership Awardee, the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, 2017.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just wanted you to see it. It was wonderful. And that statue is like bronze.
And that's heavy.
And that's heavy, honey. They have they have to ship that UPS. Yeah, first time I came to St. Louis, I was 5 years old.
That wasn't that long ago.
Wow.
And I was with my grandfather because he had I think his niece had been hit by a car, and that's when the first time I got on a train, when I was 5 years old. And we came to St. Louis and stayed at I think one of his sisters at her house. And I remember they didn't even have a regular bathroom yet. There was an outhouse. And it was an outhouse. And remember they had like if you had to go to bathroom in the middle of the night or something like that, or in the morning, it was like a little bucket and they put it under the bed.
Really?
You guys don't know anything about that.
I remember a canister under the bed that my grandmother used that she spit in with that tobacco, whatever.
Oh yeah, the chewing tobacco.
Yes, that stuff.
No, but this is really old time. This is really this was in the 40s.
Okay.
So when I was 5, it was still in the 40s. And then also I think I did engagements there at one of the theaters when Bandago was a hit. And then
Mm.
I think I worked the Playboy Club in St. Louis once
Hmm.
back in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
And then and then I also was on tour, and when we were on tour and we worked in St. Louis, I'm trying to think, was it Sophisticated Ladies or um was it Jelly's Last Jam? Because
Hmm.
I've done a few um touring companies,
Mm-hmm.
like Broadway shows. I've been in some Duke Ellington Sophisticated Ladies, and then I did Jelly's Last Jam
Mm-hmm.
with Maurice Hines and Savion Glover. We were all together, and we worked St. Louis, and
Then
that would have been 70s. Or Sophisticated Ladies was in the 80s, and Jelly's Last Jam was 1995.
that was
Mm.
probably at the Fox.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So I've
What
been to St. Louis a few times.
only thing left that I think you need to do is give out your website
Okay.
information.
My website is fredapayne.com. www.fredapayne.com. That's my website. And also you can get it with I am Freda Payne as well.
Okay.
But
You
that's
got
my
an
website.
Instagram page.
And I got Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
That
Mhm.
works.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness. The legend, Miss Freda Payne. Ah,
Yes, yes,
we thank you so much.
definitely.
I had that, and you welcome. I had a good time.
We
Thank you.
did
We did
too.
too.
It was
We
nice. It was nice talking to you both. Like, sometimes it's like people, when you talk to some people, it's like, it's like you're friends already,
yes.
when
We
you know
we
each other, you feel very comfortable. So, well,
yes,
listen,
yes.
I guess it's
Thank you.
almost an hour and a half we talked,
Wait.
but it was good. But it was a good hour and 28 minutes right now.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. All
All
right
right,
then.
guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
got you,
We
buddy.
find
got you.
out what they like and just how they like it and give it to them just that way.
Mm, uh.
Hi, this is Freda Payne, and you're listening to Music My Way with DJ Lady Jock on 88.1 KDHX in St. Louis. Hi, this is Freda Payne, and you are traveling at the speed of sound with the time traveler G Wiz. Hi, this is Freda Payne, and you are traveling at the speed of sound with the time traveler G Wiz on 88.1 FM KDHX in St. Louis. Hi, this is Freda Payne, and you're traveling at the speed of sound with the time traveler G Wiz at 88.1 FM KDHX in St. Louis.